Story number 1. Do not open until Valentine's Day. Every year around February, I find myself in this state. My appetite disappears and my thoughts become cluttered, forcing me to take a week off from work just to cope with the anxiety. Every year, a day or two before Valentine's Day, I receive an envelope from my daughter. They are always titled the same, "Do not open until Valentine's Day," and contain a piece of ripped paper with an image printed on it. I always wait until Valentine's Day to open them, and that day is approaching fast. This year will mark the 14th consecutive year she has sent one. The only problem is my daughter disappeared 14 years ago. It all started when my daughter Riley was 8. Her mother and I had just divorced, and it was a nasty situation. We despised each other. I'll admit I can be stubborn sometimes, but according to her, every bad thing that happened was my fault. Her finger was always pointed at me. There were so many nights Riley couldn't sleep because of our yelling. Looking back, the divorce was in our best interest, especially for Riley, but still, I can't imagine how difficult it was for her watching her mother and me drift apart. My lawyer was expensive as hell, but worth it when joint custody was granted. My marriage was terrible, but it brought the flower of the world into my life, Riley. Arrangements were made for each of us to keep Riley for 2 weeks at a time, and both of us living in the same school district made transportation easy. Dealing with her crazy mother on occasion was a pain, but it was well worth it to see my girl. As she grew up, her curiosity astonished me and opened my eyes to things you miss as an adult. She loved trips to the zoo, pushing her doll in a stroller, and swinging. I taught her how to ride a bike with no training wheels, and she taught me how to appreciate endless hours of Disney movies. My favorite times with Riley were during the holidays. My side of the family treated her like a princess, and she soaked up the attention like a sponge. We always had so much fun playing games or exploring outside. Although she loved spending holidays with me, it usually didn't happen. Her overbearing mother caused a stir if Riley wasn't with her side of the family for holidays, and I usually didn't put up a fight. I knew to pick my battles carefully. Since she couldn't see me on most major holidays, she started mailing me things. She felt sad I couldn't see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas, so she would cut out funny images she found in a newspaper, magazine, or on the internet and mail them to me a few days before the holiday. She always titled the envelopes with, "Do not open until," insert holiday. She started enjoying her little collage projects, and I began receiving them on New Year, Halloween, 4th of July, and Valentine's Day. The next time she would come over, she asked if I waited until the actual holiday to open them, which I always did. It became a fun way for us to get around the 2-week rule. I started putting all of her envelopes and cutouts into a bin. I've held on to each and every one. She was my little angel who could instantly put me in a good mood. Though her body may have been small, her heart was large enough for the both of us. I don't know how she turned out so caring after all the challenges her mother and I put her through, but God, I cared for her so much. One morning I was awoken by an authoritative knock at my door. The police eagerly searched my home and questioned me for hours, but I was more confused than helpful. I lost my composure when they informed me that Riley was missing. Despite my pride, I joined forces with my ex-wife to assist the police in any way possible. The search began immediately. The Amber Alert had already been issued, and the entire community rallied to find my little angel. She has never been found. After gathering testimonies from my ex-wife, neighbors, and others, the police pieced together their best assumption of what happened. The report stated that Riley waited at the end of the driveway for the school bus. Her mother allowed Riley to stand by herself while she got ready for work. The next time she looked for Riley, she was gone, and it was suspected that the bus had picked her up on the way to school. The bus driver claimed she never saw Riley that day. When the school called my ex-wife about Riley's absence an hour later, the police were alerted. Although tips came in over the next few days, nothing was substantive. As the initial attention faded, so did the assistance. With the diminishing support, my optimism waned. When the police called off the search 2 weeks later, I vented my frustration by smashing the walls of my bedroom in a fit of rage. I went through a phase where I blamed my ex-wife for being irresponsible, followed by a binge drinking phase. Hell, I even succumbed to a suicidal phase that went so far as a pistol purchase. The light of my life had been extinguished by some random perpetrator or a maniacal abductor. Nothing helped ease the pain, and the following year crept by slowly. Then I received an envelope. Startled by the writing, I dropped it on the ground when I read the front. "Do not open until Valentine's Day." The handwriting was shockingly similar, and even the apostrophe was missing, something she always forgot. I lost it. Tears streamed down my face while I sobbed harder than I ever had in my life. My sorrow quickly turned to anger when I realized what had happened. Someone was playing the sickest joke imaginable, and I had to find out who. I called my ex-wife, but she brushed off my anger as pathetic. I reached out to a few friends who might have known something, but no one did. When I finally opened the envelope, the only thing it contained was a small torn piece of paper with a printed image of a monkey. After calming my rage and getting my wits about me, I threw everything into a plastic bag to take to the police. Did one of her letters get trapped in the mail only to be sent a year late? Is it a cruel joke? Is her abductor taunting me? Is Riley alive? None of my questions were answered after they analyzed the mail. No fingerprints, no fibers, no DNA, nothing. The only helpful information I received was that, since there was no stamp or return address, someone had put it in the mailbox personally. After 6 months of testing, the envelope and monkey image were returned to me. I put them in the box with the rest of Riley's gifts. The event was so peculiar it never left my mind. I spent hours going over possible scenarios of her disappearance and how one of her gifts got to me a year later. I spent that year as a recluse from my family and friends while trying to make sense of what happened. My heart needed to heal. Alone. On February 12th of the following year, another envelope arrived. It bore the same handwriting and title, "Do not open until Valentine's Day." I didn't get upset. Somehow it brought me peace. I followed the instructions and 2 days later opened it. Inside, there was a small piece of paper with an orange on it, which I added to the collection. This pattern has persisted for the last 13 years, with this year making it 14. The first 4 envelopes contained images of AEN monkey orange mailbox mouse or mice. After 4 unsuccessful attempts in 4 years, the police could not find any information. Every year I brought them my newest gift, and every year they told me no evidence was found. They knew it was odd for me to get letters the same time every year, but since they were not threatening, they couldn't do much else. They advised I ignore them since it could be a prank. After the 4th year, I stopped showing them. The next 3 years, I was mailed images of AN Yo-Yo Kite Igloo. A few months after I received the cutout of the igloo, I was called about Riley's disappearance. A young college filmmaker wanted to do a low-budget documentary on her disappearance and asked permission from me. Publicity could only help Riley's situation, so I agreed. The interview was difficult, but the college kid was accommodating enough to interview my ex-wife on a different occasion. I never mentioned the envelopes. After it was released online, the cops got a few more tips, but nothing materialized. The next February, I set up a camera to record my mailbox. I wanted to catch the person in the act. However, after getting another envelope, I searched the footage to find an error had occurred. The last 12 hours were just static. This new envelope gave me a rush while opening it. It was like Riley was still talking to me. Sure, I had doubts, but sometimes the only thing keeping a man sane are his delusions. The handwriting was still the same. It was still Riley's. The envelope's image was of a lemur. I continued living my life. I've had a construction job for 9 years now that pays well and keeps the hours consistent. My girlfriend lives with me and she is great, but I have kept the gifts from Riley a secret. Even my ex-wife doesn't know about them. When asked why I take off around Valentine's Day, I just tell everyone it's in honor of my daughter. The next 2 years brought in large images. The thick folded pieces were glossy like those from a nice magazine. They were AN light bulb elephant. I continued saving all the gifts. Every year felt like a present from Riley. My assumption of a prank faded years ago, knowing that no one would keep this up for so long. The following 3 years brought envelopes containing AIN, dog mop ear, or earring. The last 13 years have been a hard battle to fight. Not knowing where Riley is or if she is still alive eats at my soul. I've managed the pain as best I could, but these damn envelopes bring it all back. I have no idea why anyone would do this as a prank, but I equally can't believe it's anyone other than Riley. Every year my mailbox camera malfunctions, goes blank, or is consumed with static the day I receive the envelopes. I have no proof that someone is messing with me, and it drives me crazy. Would anyone really torment me for this long? Riley would be 22 now, and I'm sure she's just as sweet as when she was taken from me.